Dental insurance today is a joke. In fact, I don't even know how it's allowed to be called dental insurance. At best, it should be called a discount plan. Many of us know that dental insurance benefits for patients have barely increased since 1970. That was almost 60 years ago. And dental insurance maximums are still capped somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 for most plans. The fact that this hasn't changed much in the last 50 to 60 years is insane. With inflation, things now cost approximately 7 times more than they did back then. The accelerated inflation over the past 5 years has only made this glaring problem worse. If they actually kept up with inflation, dental insurance plans should have maximums closer to $15,000. Not only have the maximums hardly moved, but the allowable fee as a percentage of a dentist's standard fee schedule has continually decreased over time. It hasn't even come close to keeping pace with inflation. In many cases, dentists are now charging 20 to 30 times what the fees were 60 years ago, and even more in some cases. So what can we do? In my opinion, we probably have 3 choices. There might be more than that, but I'm assuming the odds of Congress or someone completely revamping dental insurance are very slim. The first option is simply to drop insurance. If we could coordinate things so that every dentist dropped insurance at once, it would completely upend the entire system. However, that scenario is probably unlikely. The ability of a dentist to drop all their insurances varies dramatically. In certain parts of the country and in areas where there isn't a lot of competition, this can be a very viable strategy. The problem is that if you're in network versus completely out of network, you have to function differently as a business. Most dental offices are built, established, and structured to work well with in-network PPO insurance. They don't market much, and realistically, their practice isn't very marketable. Dentists who do well in-network typically focus on clinical dentistry and don't push much for business growth. If you want to excel out of network, you need to spend about 10% of your monthly revenue on marketing. You need a practice that is very marketable. It has to look great and have excellent customer service. You also need a very active online presence with lots of videos and content. If you function this way and are very marketing minded, you can do extremely well out of network. But if you're a clinical dentist who doesn't focus much on the business side and simply go out of network, the most likely scenario is that you will lose 20 to 30% of your patients right away. You might initially make more money because your fees are higher, but your attrition rate will increase without enough new patient flow to offset that. Over the coming years, your practice will slowly and continually shrink. This is the most likely outcome for most dentists who decide to go out of network without a supportive strategy. I don't want to sound pessimistic, I just want to be realistic. Simply dropping insurance is risky and not very smart, but if you revamp your practice to have a marketing-driven mentality, then yes, you can absolutely succeed. The next option is to stay with insurance and try to win at their game. You increase your volume, become more efficient, decrease your costs as much as possible, and learn to handle more exams and run more chairs at the same time. You can absolutely do this, but you have to work in a volume-focused way to succeed. If you try to spend tons of time with patients and provide a fee-for-service experience, you'll struggle financially. You need to choose your model, and your way of functioning must match that model. You'll also need to ensure that hygiene is geared toward volume if you hope to maintain any level of profit in your practice. Now, I don't think that option sounds fantastic, but the third option might be the most realistic and helpful for most PPO-driven offices. Insurance companies have tried to turn dental procedures into commodities. There are many different ways and materials that can be used for every dental procedure. We can still do things in a very analog way or in a highly digital way. Dental treatment is absolutely not a commodity, yet insurance companies are trying to make us treat it that way. So the other option, which I don't see many doing, is to create 2 tiers in the quality of services you offer. If insurance is forcing you to do an $800 crown, then maybe you should do an $800 crown. However, the patient should be given a choice. Do they want the basic $800 insurance crown, or do they want the $1,400 digital high-end excellent crown? They should be able to choose whether they want basic, inexpensive crowns or fantastic superior ones. One of the biggest issues with PPO insurance is that dentists want to do great work. We want good results and long-lasting work. We want to use materials that are tested and the latest technology, but if insurance continually pushes us down on price, it forces us to use materials we don't want to use. This creates a frustrating and demoralizing situation because insurance is constantly asking you to do less than what you're capable of. Insurance does provide value by enabling people to afford dental care that might otherwise be out of reach. So it's definitely not all bad, but insurance companies shouldn't be forcing us into doing things we're not comfortable with. I think the most realistic alternative for PPO-driven dentists is to start looking at each procedure and create two different tiers. Create a basic level version of a procedure and then a digital or premium version. If somebody wants a basic cleaning, they should get a basic cleaning. If they want an hour of a hygienist's time with all the bells and whistles, they should pay accordingly. If you're providing a service that's different from the basic standard of care service, then every patient should be able to choose to pay a little more for a better product or service. Insurance companies try to scare you by saying you can't do anything different for fee-for-service patients compared to your PPO patients. That's ridiculous. Let them try and stop you. Those lawsuits would never hold up in court. If you agree to a certain fee, you should provide a very basic service that still stays within that standard of care. But it should match what the fee is worth. I'm sorry, but an $800 PPO crown does not deserve a same-day CEREC crown. That is not and should never be an option. An $800 crown should be made in an inexpensive lab. It probably takes 2 to 3 weeks to return. If someone wants a better service, like a CEREC crown, they can pay for it. The fact that dentists have allowed insurance companies to manipulate us to this point is ridiculous. If you're a PPO-driven practice struggling with profitability, I'd suggest that you start looking at your procedures differently today. Take one procedure at a time, find the most cost-effective and efficient way to do it, and then offer a higher quality, longer-lasting option that provides a better patient experience. What would the fees look like? If you see a filling or crown at a standard fee, then the next patient that has the same procedure billed as a PPO fee, those procedures should be different. They are not the same. And if the PPO patients want the best you have to offer, they should be able to pay more. Regardless of what an insurance contract says, if you give two options to a patient and they want to pay for something better, no insurance company can legally force you to ignore that. It would never hold up in court. I'd start small and begin experimenting with creating a basic product and then another that provides an exceptional patient experience. Not only will this help your patient and your practice's profitability, but it'll also renew some excitement in your life and your dental practice. If you want to do procedures that require more expensive technology or equipment, now you can. If you want to find the best way to do something and offer that, now you can. If you want to work with the best labs, now you can. You can still remain a network and provide basic level services, but you don't have to let that completely limit your practice. We'll talk a lot more about this in the future, but I hope this expands your mind and helps you realize how dentists have backed themselves into a corner, and that this might be a great way out. Yes, it takes a little more work, strategy, and training for your team, but increasing your profitability and making dentistry more fun and fulfilling is absolutely worth the extra effort. If you have any other thoughts or ideas, please leave them in the comments or send me a message. Let's keep working together to make dentistry more fun, rewarding, and fulfilling. Stay tuned for more.